Welcome to the third installment of the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, one of them, Smitty, with me this week, the past 2 weeks, with me every week, all the way from Arizona, Donnie Druin.
How's it going?
What was that? Point to the sky?
I know, yeah, that was my, Hulk Hogan, what you gonna do, brother?
So, we're trying something out. Let us know if things are going okay in the chat. Skype wasn't doing too well for us, to put it lightly. So we're trying a different application, if you will, on our computers this week to see if this is going to work out for us this week and going forward. So let us know if you can in the chat. Herb, I know you're here, so if you're able to hear both of us, see both of us clearly, whatever it might be, let us know. So, Donnie, I think that we might as well just jump right into it, give the people what they've been waiting for. So, where should we start?
Yeah, or even the news they haven't been waiting for. I mean, we can start with the dead horse that's been beating Andrew Luck. You want to roll with that?
Yeah, the Colt. Yeah. I mean, that was a dead horse. That was a good segue into it.
I didn't even realize.
That was a good segue into this. But yeah, so I'm at a concert on Saturday, and I look at my phone and see that Andrew Luck is retiring per Adam Schefter, and I'm like, what? This can't, this has got to be Sports Talk Barry hacking accounts or something like that. What is going on here? And it's legit. And the Colts are playing a game at this point, and he got booed off the field, which I mean, that's obviously been a hot topic and everything. But just the retirement itself, so shocking. Just 29 years old. If Patrick Mahomes didn't have the season he would have had last year, possibly an MVP last year in Andrew Luck. But just crazy to think that the injuries wore him down to that point. He was dealing with another injury. Really hadn't gotten on the practice field much. The Colts are trying to keep it low-key, the situation, but it looked like Brissett was going to be the starter to open the season regardless. And obviously now he's the starter going forward. At least short term, we'll see how things play out. Maybe the Colts end up going quarterback, and maybe we could be looking at Trevor Lawrence as a future Colt.
Hey man,
but
yeah, Trevor Tua. I don't foresee any big free agent quarterbacks the Colts would want to pursue after the season. So you definitely think they're going to try to draft a young quarterback and try to get that team going in the right direction.
But man, what a terrible situation, because he was during their game, they just let the man announce it on his own the day after. But everybody's got to be the first one to put it out there.
Exactly, yeah, and I understand that's Adam Schefter's job. He makes his money by being the first person to kind of get that information out. And with that thought process, I understand why he did it. But man, did he really kind of put a lot of pressure on Andrew Luck, just right off the bat? And I'm sure Andrew Luck had no idea that Adam Schefter had tweeted all this information out. And obviously he was walking off the field and he got booed. I'm sure by then he kind of put two and two together, but which is what a crazy way. That's definitely going to be one of the where were you moments in sports. Just absolutely crazy. Bro, I was on my way to the movies. I remember texting you, be like, "Hey, can we get podcast out?" And you're like, "Bro, I'm gone. I'll talk to you tomorrow."
No, I was. That's what I mean. That definitely played into the way I was feeling about it too. Was the fact that I was already several adult beverages deep at this point. So I'm part of me didn't believe that I was even reading it right. Am I looking at my phone right? I got to focus here. I'm showing it to people around me. I'm does this say that Andrew Luck retired? Yes.
I drafted Andrew 6 hours earlier, and I was on my way to the movies, and I got that notification, and I'm just there's no fucking way. I'm there's no way this actually happened.
Yeah.
And sure shit it did, but if you're okay with it, I mean, you are my co-host. I kind of want to break it down into the fantasy football aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we got to do on this show, right? I mean, I think that's why people are probably listening. They're just shut up about Andrew Luck. He's not playing. Tell us what we actually care about, how it relates to us.
So, real quick, I just want to go over, do you foresee any, fantasy quarterback, prosperity for Jacoby Brissett by chance? Personally, I don't. He
got to be a deep league, man.
20. Yeah, you got to be a 40-man league with
no, you got to be using two starters, and he wouldn't be a starter for you anyway. He'd be your bench quarterback in a two-starter league.
Yeah, he finishes like QB 20 or like QB 21, the one full season that he started in 2017, and he just hasn't offered a whole bunch of like upside in games he does play. That being said, he is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league, but there is a reason he's a backup.
Hmm.
And if even if you just like match the numbers between Luck and Ty and Jacoby and Ty, it's a night and day difference. And I guess we can kind of jump into that. Ty Hilton owners got to be super pissed about Andrew Luck retiring.
Yeah. T.Y. Hilton takes a huge hit here, and I mean, he's being drafted as just outside like the top 10 receivers. I mean, if Andrew Luck was going in as what, QB 4 or 5, depending on the rankings that you were looking at. So I mean, obviously T.Y. Hilton, big boost there, the number one receiver for an offense that has that quarterback. All of a sudden, you're talking about they got like QB 30 thrown to him. He's going to take a huge hit. His production, not just from a fantasy perspective, but also just a real life perspective. Yeah, the Colts are definitely just on a downhill trend right now, all the way across the board, you would think. But maybe there is some upside with other players, even though T.Y. Hilton takes a hit here.
Right. Yeah. So the one season T.Y. Hilton didn't reach 1,000 yards besides his rookie year was the full season with Jacoby Brissett. So you can kind of copy and paste 2017 and 2019. That's kind of what I'm expecting from like a fantasy perspective. Your boy Eric Ebron takes a giant hit.
Yeah, I just drafted him on Saturday too. Not as my top tight end. He was my tight end number 2. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, it kind of sucks.
And who knows? A lot of times inexperienced quarterbacks will go to their tight ends. It's kind of like your security blanket. So there might be some saving face for Eric Ebron there, but he's definitely not looking like he's going to repeat the campaign he had in 2018. So kind of picking back after your point, for the one player who could have the potential upstock and rising, I think is going to be Marlon Mack.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just to, real quick, jump back to Eric Ebron. He was being drafted. People were kind of already like fading him anyway this year with Andrew Luck, being drafted as tight end number 11 per ESPN's sheets. But and that's Jack Doyle would be coming back. He didn't have like the full season last year, and the year prior he was the main tight end there. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that tight end situation. Do you think that maybe even though Ebron fades a little bit, that could mean a little bit of emergence for Doyle because of Brissett?
Yeah, theoretically, if Ebron's fading as a tight end, then naturally Doyle would step up. I just don't know if I trust Doyle jumping into that role again, especially with the Colts seeing how well Ebron can play with or without Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that's catching passes is taking a hit here in this situation. Marlon Mack and even, Nyheim Hines is the receiving back there, but Marlon Mack is going to at some point probably have to come off the field. Nyheim Hines maybe even sees a little bit of an uptick here, just from a perspective he might get more usage because Marlon Mack's not getting run into the ground.
Yeah, in the obviously, kind of the simple math. If your starting quarterback goes down, your team's going to try to run the ball more. We saw that in 2017. Whenever Luck went down, the Colts ran the ball. I think they were a top 3 or top 4 team in terms of just like rushing attempts. So Marlon Mack, at least for me, his fantasy value rises a little bit. They're going to have to establish him on the ground. I don't think you can trust Jacoby Brissett to go out every single Sunday win football games with his arm. It's not a knock on him. It's just the talent disparity between Luck and Brissett is night and day. So like we discussed, Marlon Mack gets an uptake, and then I also agree with you. I think Nyheim Hines also sees an uptake in stock as well. But that's about it for Colts offense. Everybody else is kind of plummeting down for me.
Yeah. I mean, you look at maybe some of the other receivers you would have been looking at in deeper leagues. Devin Funchess. I mean, maybe Paris Campbell, but I haven't seen a league where he's been drafted yet. I was in a league where Devin Funchess was later on, so he's probably off the radar at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. And any like sleeper receiver, like you mentioned, Funchess or Perry Campbell's out the window at this point, at least for the foreseeable future. We might get surprised. It's fantasy football, so obviously, we're never right. So I'm sure one receiver will jump off the page.
And Herb said in the chat that Brissett was going to win the Super Bowl. So,
hey,
I feel like he's a better real life quarterback than he is fantasy. But we're talking fantasy value here, and I just don't think that he presents that.
I completely agree. Like I said, he finished quarterback 20 in 2017. So He hasn't vastly improved since then, so I have no reason to bump him up my boards.
Tyler, our boy, just came in. I don't know why I keep looking at my PlayStation up anyway. Like, I have the chat right here, and it's so clear on my computer. This is beautiful. But Tyler just came in here and said, one of the guys in my draft had it on auto draft and took luck probably 20 minutes after the news broke. Listen, he got what he got. Oh, he got what he deserved for having it on auto draft. That's what I'll say.
Let's say if you auto draft, you definitely get what you deserve.
Yeah. Man, is my basement dark tonight or what? I need to get some new lighting or something down here, guys. But Sarge said the real question here is who has the better beard between me and Donnie. I'm going to be honest. The last time we recorded, Donnie wasn't. I don't remember seeing this from Donnie. I might have to go with Donnie here.
I haven't shaved in a minute, so I have a hopeful job interview coming up soon. So I'm probably gonna have to shave that. But I mean, this is probably the longest it's been for a minute.
Yeah, Donnie's leaving the Around the 412 Fantasy Football podcast to be part of the fantasy football to join the athletic.
The athletic.
Yeah.
The next chapter.
I'm joining the athletic. Here's why. This is what they always say. That's like yeah. All right, so Luck kind of stole the spotlight of Saturday news, but another injury happened. Not only did another injury happened right there in the AFC South. Yep. Lamar Miller goes down.
Yeah, so that was probably one of the most disgusting injuries I've ever seen. If you've actually watched it,
I saw it. Unfortunately,
terrible, super terrible. You can. It's one of those injuries where he goes down and you look at the replay and you're like, yeah, he's not walking that off. But Lamar Miller done for the season. I feel sorry for the people that expected him to kind of be a somewhat bell cow running back for the Texans this year. But you got to think Duke Johnson's value just kind of goes through the roof right now. Even if they do try to sign a veteran running back like Jay Ajayi, I've seen his name linked multiple times to them. Duke Johnson's value just skyrocketed for me.
Yeah, someone even put out a report that he was like coming in for a workout, like Jay Ajayi. And that wasn't like the Texans refuted that. They said there was nothing there, at least at this point. I think that
So during the Steelers game, Al Michaels had announced that Jay signed with the Texans.
Yeah, right. And then you go on Twitter, and of course, people are like feeding off that, like, oh my God, Al Michaels just said this live. So it's just it was getting put everywhere. And then people are like, yeah, no, that didn't happen. He hasn't even like worked out for the team. So. But to your point, Duke Johnson, who was acquired by them, the Browns are definitely getting that third-round pick now. They were anyway, but they definitely are now. So it's gonna be a third-round pick if he plays 10 or more games. He's gonna play 10 or more games, barring injury, of course, as well for him. But Duke Johnson already had standalone value to me in that offense. There were a lot of balls to go around. Deshaun Watson being drafted as QB2, DeAndre Hopkins obviously one of the top receivers, but there's still a lot of balls to go around in that offense. And Duke Johnson, I feel like, was going to catch a ton of passes out of the backfield. Now he's going to get some touches, just getting the ball handed off to him. And I think that they still need another running back to complement that. Maybe he's on the roster right now. I don't know. I know there is a running back on the roster that I did see like in the trending transactions on Yahoo Fantasy. Let me pull up that real quick because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know his name.
So I know they released Dante Foreman earlier this offseason, so everybody was kind of on him, but he got nixed. No, I mean, the Duke Johnson hype train is definitely taking off right now. You can make an argument that after DeAndre Hopkins, he's the best receiving option on the Texans, and now, like you mentioned, that he's going to get a little bit more carries. Yeah,
Damare Crockett is the one that's been getting picked up in Yahoo Fantasy. And then, of course, they have undrafted rookie out of Michigan, Karan Higdon Jr. there as well. So those would probably be like the two to actually run the ball, I guess, to Duke Johnson's pass-catching ability. But I think that Duke Johnson is going to be doing more running between the tackles than he ever has in his life in Cleveland.
Yeah, probably. And like he hasn't even ran like through the tackles that many times in his life either, just because his role's been carved out with Cleveland since day one, so he doesn't have a lot of experience doing that. But I mean, there's definitely upside for him to do that now in Houston's offense.
Yeah, so we have a Lamar Miller owner or drafter, I should say, in the chat here. Sarge took him, but he picked up Latavius Murray now to replace that on his roster, and he asked if that was a dumb move. I don't think so. I think that Latavius Murray definitely has value in New Orleans. Obviously, everybody's going to be like, oh, Alvin Kamara, he's being drafted as running back 2 or 3, depending on if you're higher on him or McCaffrey. He's going to be the bell cow back. But they obviously, like, Kamara was there last year, and Mark Ingram still got touches, and Latavius Murray is there to take that role. I think that Latavius Murray definitely has value in a standalone league, and obviously, with Lamar Miller going down, you had to get somebody, and I feel like Latavius Murray was probably the best option for you, being that I'm in the league that you're talking about, so I know. So I like Latavius Murray.
Yeah, so Latavius is definitely my top handcuff running back. You're at the draft with them.
Yeah.
They essentially, like you said, replaced him for Mark Ingram. Last year, Ingram had 645 yards and 6 touchdowns with the Saints. Taking that kind of production out of Latavius Murray playing behind Alvin Kamara, that's phenomenal. I feel like you're doing okay if you're drafting Latavius Murray at a super high point and getting that kind of turnout. But no, I completely agree. Shifting back towards the Texans, though, until they sign a proven veteran guy, you have to think that Duke Johnson is the clubhouse leader in the running back room for both pass catching and rushing. So we'll see. Houston's offense is proven to be quite lethal whenever everybody's healthy and all the gears are running. So this has a lot of potential. But focusing on guys like Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, even with Lamar Miller being taken out, I don't see a huge uptick in the kind of projections, just because maybe they were so high to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't expect Bill O'Brien to kind of shy away from running the football still.
No, yeah, and I gotta agree with you. I don't really see much change with anybody in Houston, other than with Duke Johnson and whoever, if there is another running back that they bring in, and whoever takes on that role that Miller would have had as probably the 2-down running back, with Duke Johnson coming in on 3rd down. But, I mean, we'll see. Will it be that guy? Maybe a guy steps up and Duke Johnson just keeps the same role that he would have had anyway. But I think there was value there regardless. So I think that Duke Johnson obviously stays the same, if not an uptick, and I'm leaning towards the uptick just because I feel like he's going to be playing 2 or 3 downs as opposed to just the 1 down he would have been playing with Lamar Miller.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a win-win scenario for Johnson off the bat. Like you mentioned before, he can't stand the value as it was, and the Lamar Miller.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, man. It's talking hard. The Lamar Miller injury kind of helps everybody in Houston, especially.
Yeah. We got a couple things that I saw come through in the chat. Herb, I guess, real quick, wanted to talk about running backs here. When you get a chance, how do you guys feel about Tony Pollard since Zeke won't be back till Week 10, barring a huge turnaround, and Tyler Boyd and Damian Willis playing the X while A.J. Green is out?
So I drafted Zeke and I handcuffed Pollard.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about that already, I feel like.
Yeah, no, we did. So it's kind of a wait and see thing for me. Pollard looked really good, and the little time he did play preseason. And obviously, based on Jerry Jones' comments, he's perfectly fine with Pollard playing, up until Zeke comes back. So if you have Zeke, you definitely need to go and grab Pollard. As for AJ Green being out, Tyler Boyd, I feel like he's going to see a whole bunch of targets. I don't think he sees over 100 targets again this year. AJ Green's expected back by week 4, correct?
Yeah, so they said best case scenario week 3.
Gotcha.
I don't know that there's necessarily an expected date like that. Maybe you'd seen something that I didn't. I just, being that I have him, I got the fantasy update or whatever, and I clicked on it and said best case scenario week 3. But he still is moving around on one of those the Matt Patricia things that he wheels around on. Since he had that Achilles surgery, so he's still not walking around on one of those, but yeah, getting around on one of those, I should say. So I don't. He's not close, I wouldn't say by any means. I mean, I'm drafting AJ Green if he's there to stash, just because it's AJ Green. I mean, I would want to have my positions filled out, as I think I've said before, because I have him. So, but I drafted 4 receivers before taking him as well. So I was just like, this is too good of a scenario to pass up. I'll keep AJ Green. If maybe he doesn't play at all, maybe he has a setback and ends up not coming back at all. But I think that's worth the risk, the production that we know that he does have when he's on the field.
Definitely, and even whenever AJ Green's 50%, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He plays on the Bengals team with a whole lot of weapons around him. Tyler Boyd had a great season, but we can see continued improvement from him. I'm not going to consider him as solidified number 2. You have Joe Mixon running from on the backfield. But other than that, it's the AJ Green show. So yeah, if you can definitely stash him, his name value will even drive trade value. You know, if you're really looking to just move him.
Yeah, and as far as Tyler Boyd goes, I love Tyler Boyd, obviously, H2P. But I think that, like you said, he'll obviously see more targets without AJ Green. I don't necessarily think that means more production. I think that defenses will sway that way. He's going to have much more attention, and he'd be much more beneficial as the 2 with AJ Green taking the attention off of him than the number 1 where people are paying all the attention to him.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, he got a taste of wide receiver 1 action last year with AJ Green was there, and he did a damn good job, good enough to earn him, a pretty lucrative contract for like that, his stature. But I mean, I'm pulling up the Bengals schedule right now. Best case scenario, he plays the Seahawks week 1, the 49ers week 2, and week 3 are the Buffalo Bills. All like average to above average secondary, so don't see any terrible secondaries in that first 3 games. And then he'll be back. AJ Green will be back week 4. So if Green is even past week 4, Tyler Boyd has a matchup with Patrick Peterson in week 5. So not a whole
how many games is Pat Pete suspended for?
Ooh, that's absolutely right. Yeah,
is it 6?
Suspended for 6 or 8. Patrick.
I thought it was 6.
Sorry, I'm not a huge Patrick Peterson fan, so yep, 6 games.
Okay, so
disregard everything else you said.
No, just the one thing. He doesn't have a matchup with Patrick Peterson, but still doesn't really change my outlook on Tyler Boyd, where he's much better off if AJ Green's opposite of him.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that Cincinnati's offensive line is a little bit made up. Dalton is getting another year older, and he's not really progressing any as well. It's just kind of like a murky overall situation for Bengals fantasy football players.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else in here? No, sorry. Tyler said no. Sarge will have a good year. We're going back to Latavius Murray. He was answering this. And vulture some touchdowns from my top overall pick if Mark Ingram's usage was any indication. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to talk about. He's replacing that. So, will he do the exact? I don't know. I mean, because I think that Kamara is expected to probably have a little bit more significant role than he did last year, but
we'll see. The Saints are definitely smart whenever it comes to preserving your players. I mean, an example, Drew Brees, they run a system where the ball's usually out in like 3 to 4 steps. So I think they definitely want to preserve Alvin Kamara, especially if they plan on paying him like they're rumored to be paying him. But it's supposed to be the same kind of production as 2018, where Kamara will take majority of snaps on the drive. Ingram/Murray will come in for a couple of plays, and Kamara will stop right back in.
Yeah. Okay. Herb was saying too, there was like a little bit of a latency with your audio, but I think that it's okay now. So. Next.
Next.
Thank you. Next.
Defenses. Should they be allowed?
Oh, man. So, well, okay. I don't draft them until my last 2 picks, and I wouldn't draft them if I didn't have to. And I've noticed that people are on, the trend that I've been on, and we've kind of talked about it already too. I looked at the week 1 matchup, and that's how I draft my defense, and I pick up a new one potentially every week, just depending on what their matchup is. I mean, if the team that I drafted has a good week 2 matchup too, I'll keep them, whatever. But for me, it's completely matchup based. I don't, I'm not going out and drafting the Bears before I fill out my roster.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I've seen defenses drafted in like round 10 of fantasy football leagues.
And in this year, that would be the Bears.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. If you're drafting a defense, you absolutely have to. The Bears are probably the best defense to go. But I've always treated defenses. I found it to be much better. This is kind of hoping your defense has a good matchup that week. You just go pick one up off the waiver wire and roll the dice that way. But it's just absolutely crazy. Yeah, absolutely don't draft defense until the very last round unless you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty much the same way with kickers. For as many years as in a row now that I can remember, kicker defense have been my last two picks. So I'm going based off whoever they play week one, and I'll stream a new one potentially every single week.
See, kickers are a little bit like different to me because if you have a guy like Justin Tucker or like Greg Sirlin, I feel like that's a little bit different just because they're good enough to have solidified roles in their offenses, so they're kicking quite a bit just because their coaches and their offense trust him. And especially if your league awards points for yardage on kicks, it's like 3 points per kick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can agree with you there. If you look at, so last year, looking at kickers, Kimi Fairbairn led kickers in points. Number 2 was Justin Tucker. 3 was Jason Myers, tied with Will Lutz. Butker, Crosby, Aldrich Rosas, Robbie Gold, Goskowski, Brett Mayer, Matt Prater, Sebastian Janikowski. So, my issue here is that there's about 15 points that separate those guys.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is they're all can be so close in the amount of points that I just can't see me spending a decent draft pick to get a top one when I can go completely matchup based and go just pick a kid that's doing against a bad defense. They'll get me enough points where it's enough to close the gap at that position, and I'll let the rest of my roster win the game for me.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'm not even close to advocating for kickers being drafted outside the last 2 rounds of the league. But I mean, if you're able to draft like Justin Tucker, like Kaimi Fairbairn, like we talked about in the last 2 rounds of the league, I mean, it's definitely worth the flyer, at least for the first couple of weeks. You can always drop them. They're just kickers in fantasy football, which kind of leads me to our next point. Should your league even have kickers and defenses?
I'm highly debating getting rid of it next year. I don't just. It's not fun to talk about, for one. It's positions that we're not going to talk about when you talk about, who's your top guys at those positions or whatever. Just because, once again, it's so hit or miss. Guys are so close in points. But, I mean, and the thing is, I have seen defenses win leagues before. Defense like Chicago's last year win a league. Maybe you can change my opinion on this if you're on the other side. But, I'm not with it.
I'm not... The only reason I'm for it is because they're still part of football, and I'm lumping defense and kickers into it. Kickers more so than defenses. I would understand why leagues would get rid of defenses just because they're not necessarily scoring points per se. I mean, if you really want like a defensive team on your fantasy team, just go IDP, draft individual defensive players. But kickers, kickers are still part of the game. They still earn points for a team. And
they carry a lot of points.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If you have a guy like Justin Tucker who can regularly nail 60-yard field goals, and your league is one of the leagues that have a point for every extra 10 yards past 30 that they kick, I mean, every 60-yard field goal he nails is equivalent to a touchdown. So in that sense, kickers do have relative value. But I understand why leagues want to get rid of kickers. I mean, they're kind of inconsistent. They don't get a whole lot of play. It's essentially like a crapshoot, and it's the same thing with defenses. But I'm more of the traditional hey, we've had it, so let's keep it kind of dude. But in that case,
I'm going.
I am. I
probably will.
Hey, each your own.
I just feel like a lot of those kickers and defenses, for the most part, cancel each other out. Now, there are some, top heavy at that position, but the average kicker is going to cancel out the average kicker, the average defense is going to cancel out the average defense. I mean, I guess you could even argue that we've talked about before, that's why you don't draft a quarterback that high.
Yeah.
But, obviously, you're going to have quarterbacks in your fantasy league, sorry. We thought you should be running backs or receivers.
No QB league.
Herb said, random note, B-Ray Elite. Brian Reynolds hit a 2-run home run for our hometown Pittsburgh Pirates. Reynolds. Reynolds, around the 412. What's that? You asked me what type of hat I'm wearing? Let me show you real quick. This is a different one than I wore last week. Around the 412. You can go to spreadshirt.com/around the 412 hats. Kind of getting towards the end of summer, so I don't know if I'd get a hat right now, but we do have beanies on there. It's going to be getting colder. We also have hoodies. gonna be putting up pictures of hoodies because I sent some out to some of my boys there in the pirate system. They got them now, so I'm having them send me pictures of them wearing them. And I'm gonna put them up. So we got some models now in the pirate system.
Love it.
Anyway, all right. Thanks for getting us off track, Herb. Shameless self promo. You're right. Of course, this is part of Around the 412, which is part of the Podhub Network, podhubnetwork.com. Go check out all the podcasts.
Find us.
On Twitter, on Instagram.
Yeah, well, everywhere.
Just type in Around the 412, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Facebook page you can like, etc., etc.
etc.
Depending on what you look like, you can add me on Snapchat.
Oh man. So an interesting note we added to our rundown. I was kind of excited whenever you initially brought this idea up. Top quarterback and receiver duos for fantasy football.
Yeah, so is that something that you look for when you're drafting?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's I've got 2 duos on here that are kind of like ideal to have, but it's not something I like pound the table for when I draft.
Okay, so who are your top duos?
So number one, it's Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. It's just the boom potential they provide on every single play they're on the field. Phenomenal. They're both phenomenal players in their own individual rights. But if you can double up on those points, especially the touchdowns, it's just crazy fantasy numbers, crazy output. Stupid production you'll be looking at this year. And the other one is going to be Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Rodgers kind of alone, at least for me, hasn't been the fantasy guy in the last couple of years due to injuries. Devontae Adams is one of the most consistent touchdown scorers in the league. He's had double-digit touchdowns the last 3 seasons, and in touchdowns, they reign supreme in fantasy football. So I think if you're able to pair either of those 2 guys together, your fantasy team's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so for me, it is something that I look for. For example, this year, I mean, it wasn't my top receiver, but I have Robert Woods in a league, and even if you're not talking about necessarily your QB1, I look for a quarterback that I can draft that I can pair with that. I took Jared Goff. Now, that's not what I'm saying is one of my top connections. However, that is a duo that I look for, and I do kind of look for that with that strategy. I honestly thought you were going to say this one, Watson and Hopkins. And I think just due to the opportunity for him, we know what he is. I mean, there's a reason that he's being drafted the way that he is. There's just not anybody else there, and you could argue that with Devontae Adams too. He's just in his own class in that receiving core. So that to me is why he's there, because he's going to get 3,000 targets this year.
Yeah, the Watson-Hopkins connection is definitely one of the best in fantasy football. I felt like I would kind of be too mainstream if I mentioned that, but then again, I did mention Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill is the number one option. But just other ones, Breeze and Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Ben and Juju. If Juju can put up the numbers he did last year, phenomenal output.
So the second one that I have, it's a little bit of a risk because they haven't gotten a whole lot of work in together. But
can I guess it?
Yeah.
Is it Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen?
No.
Oh.
Baker Mayfield, OBJ.
Yeah, dude, that's got so much potential.
The potential's there. I'm not gonna say boom or bust. The only reason I'm saying it's risky is because they haven't gotten a ton of work on the field together to this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I need to say. Look at what OBJ did in New York with an aging Eli Manning, who you could argue was one of the bottom, I don't know, 5 to 7 quarterbacks in the league over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
so now he's going to Cleveland with Baker Mayfield, second-year starter. All this promise there, just in that offense. This is kind of the not necessarily the opposite of what I just said in Houston, but there are a lot more weapons there, which is a good and bad thing. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, but there's not going to necessarily be as much opportunity as Hopkins has in Houston, but he won't have as much attention paid to him due to the other options that are in Cleveland.
Definitely, yeah, and you can almost bank that Jarvis Landry is going to be working out of the slot a whole bunch in 2019, which is going to open up a lot of big downfield opportunities for Odell. So that's big fantasy points right there. You have to assume that Baker Mayfield is going to take a step up from his performance in 2018. So it just pair that with Odell Beckham Jr., top 5 receiver in the league at minimum. he's going to put up a lot of points this year.
100. All right. What do we have next?
So I think we should talk about our guys. Shout out to the Fantasy Football News podcast.
Yeah.
This is something they like to do. So they pick a guy they like. They kind of talk about him for a little bit. So Smitty, give me a couple of your guys for 2019.
Okay, so I did one at each of the primary positions. So obviously not kicker, tight end, as we already talked about.
Yikes.
So at quarterback, just mentioned him. I'm gonna go with Jared Goff. We're talking about an offense that's gonna be top 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that range. Ton of weapons there, put in a great position with Sean McVay as the coach. Obviously, doesn't have Zach Taylor there, the quarterback coach. He went off to Cincinnati, but I don't think that much is going to change there with that. Big fan of Jared Goff in that offense. And look, and it's funny because just the year prior, people were arguing that he was a bust. So,
yeah, he's definitely gotten some help from Sean McVay's system, but I mean, the dude puts up numbers. He's a top 10 fantasy quarterback for a reason.
Yeah. So that's my quarterback.
So my guy's gonna be Baker Mayfield, who we also just talked about. He's not getting drafted super high, but any quarterback outside of like Mahomes, Ryan, or Rodgers isn't really getting drafted that high, or Watson as well. You could throw him in there. Tons of upside. He's super young. He has all the talent in the world around him. He has a competent front office now. He has a competent coaching staff, and people are expecting a lot of big things in Cleveland, and I expect a lot of big things out of Baker. So I definitely expect him to put a lot of numbers up in 2019.
Right.
My running back, my guy that I'm kind of hammering home this year is going to be David Montgomery, the Bears rookie. Is that your guy?
Yep.
Man,
I got another guy. I got another guy. Honestly, I had a feeling this was going to happen.
I mean, I feel like you've heard me rant about David Montgomery either on Twitter or just like over the podcast. But if you apply Jordan Howard's workload to David Montgomery this year, he's going to be tremendous. We've already seen in the preseason already how effective David Montgomery can be in Chicago's offense. Tariq Cohen being there doesn't scare me enough to shy away from David Montgomery. He's currently like running back 29 right now. So he's going to look at probably 16 carries a game with about 2 targets a game. That's what Jordan Howard saw in 2018. So just a phenomenal upside for a young running back who doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was also my guy. But I'm gonna go with somebody who, for the love of God, please feed this man, Aaron Jones in Green Bay.
Man, if they can just give him the damn ball,
yeah,
a lot.
It doesn't. It's not more complicated than that. Just give him the ball. The dude averages between 6 and 7 yards a carry. I understand you got Aaron Rodgers, Devontae. You want the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands. I get it. But
Mike McCarthy is gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm hoping
Matt LaFleur is in there.
Yeah,
super good offensive mind. So we'll see. People expected Green Bay to have a offensive turnaround this season. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they do it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so wide receivers. I kind of mentioned it. It's kind of the same thing as like the take the leap here for me. I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper. Contract year. Looked at the numbers he put up in Dallas when he got there last year. I think it carries over to this season.
Yeah, I was looking at Amari Cooper's one of my guys. He's still a little bit inconsistent for me. A lot of his production came from I think like the 5 or 6 games he played in Dallas. Yeah. So my guy's gonna be DJ Moore out of Carolina. Super clear pick to break out in 2019. I definitely understand why. But the only concern I have is like him and Curtis Samuel are like 1A, 1B, and we won't know who's going to separate themselves until football actually is played. Which is in 9 days, by the way. Super excited. 9 days away from the season.
Yeah, well, they actually the Panthers training camp MVP was Curtis Samuel, whatever that means. I'm just throwing that out there, but I like DJ Moore a little bit more than Curtis Samuel, to be honest with you.
I feel like DJ Moore's skill set kind of translates better to like fantasy production more so than Curtis Samuel. Even though Curtis Samuel technically had better numbers than DJ Moore did last year, like I said, it's a toss-up. I just personally like DJ Moore since he came out of college, so I'll ride with him. Super cheap value for a really high upside, so that's kind of what I look for in receivers. And then my tight end, you shouldn't be surprised by this. I say it's going to be Evan Ingram. I feel like I say he's almost every podcast. Just the amount of work he is looking at without Odell Beckham Jr., a suspended goaltender, and a basically injured entire Giants receiving court should be astronomical. I will be super upset if he doesn't hit 100 targets this soon.
Fair enough. I'm going to go just a little bit lower on the board. Still a top 10 tight end as projected, but hopefully a finally healthy Hunter Henry. That's my dude. I think if he stays healthy this year, he's right on the cusp of top 5.
Yeah, so whenever he was healthy, he actually produced better numbers than Rob Gronkowski did a couple of years ago whenever Philip Rivers was really connecting with him. So, he's healthy coming into the season this year, so that's definitely like a top 10 tight end you can get like on a really good value. So yeah, he's definitely one of my guys as well.
Beautiful. Love to hear it. Love when we're on the same page.
Man, it's what we do. It's why we do this together.
Yeah, you're not getting any first take action here, Stephen A. and Max. Dwayne Wade, my brother. Do we have anything else?
No, I think that's it. The season starts next week. Really excited to bring up to you guys some like really good weekly fantasy football content. Yeah, that's about it. Hopefully all of your fantasy drafts went well.
Yeah, I'd say up until this point, it's been a lot of prep stuff, directions that we would go during our drafts and stuff like that. Once the season kicks off and stuff like that, we get into the weekly stuff. You're gonna see a lot of the same topics each week. Not same topics, but similar topics in that we're gonna do like waiver wire stuff, top ads of the week, talking about where guys finished for the week and do we expect them to continue that into the next week. That's something that I'm gonna present to you guys. It's an idea that Donnie and I have tossed around, and I like the way that it's gonna be brought up as a topic on here. But anyway, last thing, Herb threw in here, speaking of injury-prone tight ends, Tyler Eifert, thoughts? I can't touch it.
I can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, my man.
Yeah. Not with a 10-foot pole. Not to start the season. I mean, maybe that's a guy that we're talking about as a waiver at some point. If he can stay healthy and he's putting up numbers that we have seen him do in the past. But it's such a shame too, because it kind of all like started when he got hurt in the Pro Bowl. So he was like being acknowledged as one of the best tight ends in the league, and then he got hurt. It kind of derailed everything.
Yeah, it's a between Gary Barnes and Tyler Eifert.
Hopefully not Vance.
Yeah.
Because the Steelers cannot afford to have that happen.
What, you think Xavier Griffin and Zach Gentry run the offense?
No.
Oh.
Even though Randy Fichtner said that Vance isn't going to be on the field the whole time. So we'll see how the Steelers use their tight ends. Anyway, just be on the lookout for stuff that we're going to be bringing to you guys. We'll let you know when we're going to be doing this again. Enjoy the start of football season. Hope everybody's fantasy team turned out well. Most people do love their teams on draft day, but unfortunately, folks, that's not the team that you're going to have the entire season. I can guarantee it. So you're going to be needing to make moves to that roster to hopefully get you that championship, and we're here to help you. So follow us at Around the 412 on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook. If you're listening to this, whatever platform it might be on, whether it be an Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, whether you're listening to it right on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, whatever it might be, head on over to twitch.tv/around the412 so you can follow us live when we do it on here. If you're watching this on YouTube, same thing, because you can come, you're still watching the video, it's happening live, you can chat with us, you can ask us questions, whatever. So, really good time. We enjoy interacting with everybody that comes in here with chat. We are kind of like our little niche group now that we're constantly interacting with that we love. So, until next time, guys, we'll talk to you. Bye-bye.